Hi, everyone. Dr. Tim for a Dr. Tim's Aquatics podcast question and answer. We always get a lot of questions and like to share them to teach everybody, and everybody can learn together. And sometimes we get questions that we didn't think about. A lot of times we get questions we didn't think about. First one, I bought a tank and some fish and didn't do the proper research. And now I'm learning that I need to cycle the tank. I was wondering, can I use one and only while fish are in the tank? This is a rather common question that we get. Can I add one and only live nitrifying bacteria to a tank that already has fish in it? And the answer is yes. The bacteria are completely non-toxic, and you need to get rid of that ammonia or nitrite. So yes, add the one and only at the normal dose, or you can add more. It is not going to harm anything. But remember, shake the bottle well. Also, turn off any protein skimmers, ozone, roller mat filters, and remove the fine filter socks. Okay. Question 2. I want to inquire about an issue I'm experiencing with algae growing on the glass of my aquarium. I've been using Dr. Tim's waste-to-away gel as recommended, which was supposed to prevent film buildup. However, over the past 3 or 4 weeks, I noticed the algae growth on the glass has become more aggressive. The water parameters are always within normal range, and there's no additional algae on the rock or the sand. I have a few urchins in the tank, some snails as well, and the total water volume is 53 gallons. Well, as I've said many times, I'd like to be the decider of what water parameters are in the normal range. So instead of just saying they're normal, how about giving us ammonia, nitrite, nitrate, phosphate, and pH? If you're going to talk about lighting and algae, what lights are you using? And more importantly, what are the percentages? Have you got the blue dialed up to 100%? Because these are all questions I'm going to ask, so we can get to the answer faster if you include those when you write us. Okay? And you can write us at info@drtimsaquatics.com. So we don't really have any data to go on other than the algae is growing worse. Well, that's probably because there's more nutrients. The algae needs nutrients. Well, where did the nutrients come from? Well, waste away breaks down the organics, the particulate and the dissolved organics that are in the tank, and it converts those organic substances into ammonia, which then become part of the nitrogen cycle, and that becomes nitrate. So chances are this tank had a lot of organics in it. And this is a normal thing. You're trying to clean up. It's like cleaning up your house. It's going to look worse before it looks better. And I think that's the stage this person is in. Also, do you have a skimmer? I'm not anti-skimmer, but you got to use it smartly. And so what you're trying to do is use the waste away bacteria to convert the organics into more bacteria, but then remove those bacteria. But in that process, they're going to produce ammonia and CO2, which algae love. So you might get a period of time where the algae looks worse. This is common, and it's just that stage you've got to go through. There's no quick fix here. It took a while to get the tank to look ugly. It's going to take a while to get the tank to look better. Number 3. I'm interested in using your Refresh Waste Away program to combat cyano and algae. I see that you have a warning with Refresh about removing snails and shrimp from the system because overdosing may affect the snails. I have no place to remove the snails to and was wondering if I do not overdose Refresh, will it still affect the shrimp and the snails? Now, the answer there is we don't know, because everybody's system is different. We don't know why this occurs, but it does occur in some cases. It's not 100%. It's not even 50 or 20%, but it occurs, and we want to warn people. So I really don't know. I can't promise it will not affect your animals. What we recommend is you start with a lower dose, observe the tank, and then proceed accordingly. Sorry, that's the truthful best answer that we can give. Next, I followed the prescription for fishless cycling a new aquarium by Dr. Tim. Just like the one on the cyno and algae, these are recipe cards that you can download from our website along with a couple others, and they give you step-by-step, day-by-day directions on how to combat common aquarium problems, cycling, cyno, dino, coloring up your corals, things like that. The chart said to add ammonia if less than 5 ppm. So I did. I had 4 on day 5. Day 6 and 7 are 3. The nitrates are going up and my pH is dropping from 8.1 to 7.6. This is all normal. So this right now, everything's progressing. You've heard me say it a lot. As you're cycling and adding ammonia, getting the system to establish, your nitrates are going up, your pH is going down. This is a sign the bacteria are working. Should I do a 20% water change to increase it? It seems the ammonia has stalled. I began at 1.029 specific gravity and at 80 degrees to help the bacteria. Day 1, it was 0. Day 2, it was 2. Day 3, it was 3. I added some more. I'm assuming I added more ammonia. Day 4 was 2 ppm, so I added more thinking I goofed. Day 5 was 4. So I'm thinking they're adding ammonia and they're giving the ammonia values because if you go back up to the very beginning, it says day 5, 4 p.m. So everything's going fine. I mean, you got rid of the ammonia quickly. It was down to 2. You added the ammonia. Everything's progressing. Yes, do a water change. Don't disturb the gravel. Don't change filter pads. All the places with the bacteria, the nitrifying bacteria, and the one and only can be living and attached and doing the job. Don't want to change any of that. So take the water from, just below the surface. You'll be fine. 20%, but don't disturb the gravel. Don't change the filter pads. All right. Next, what do you have to get rid of green hair algae? Well, we don't make chemical products that get rid of hair algae. We don't make algae killers, none of that stuff. What we do is we want you to have better water quality and better water maintenance and use bacteria to outcompete the algae. So what we say is our waste away, which is 8 different species of bacteria that I isolated from aquariums. And why don't you have enough bacteria? Well, chances are you've got a skimmer and a roller filter and a bunch of other mechanical devices that have unintentionally removed the bacteria from the water column, but they've left the nutrients. And so anything that can grow on surfaces that aren't affected by all that equipment I mentioned earlier, you've cleared the field for them. You've gone to team cyno and dino and hair algae and eliminated team bacteria in the water. And so you've got to add those bacteria back, and that's what the waste away does. But again, it's a process. It takes time to convert the system, the one that favors bacteria that live on surfaces to bacteria or one that favors algae that live on surfaces versus one that favors bacteria that live in water. So there's no quick fix here from Dr. Tim's. It takes time. It's a long-term fix. If you're going to go and add algicides and stuff, you're just putting a Band-Aid on your problem and you're not really going to solve things. We prefer to educate you. That's why we're doing these questions and answers and, show you and teach you how to manage the system so that you solve it long term and have less headaches. So what you need to do, clean the system, we recommend you start with the liquid waste away at a very small dose. If you have a lot of organics, a lot of phosphates, a lot of nitrates, that bacteria is going to eat those up, bloom, consume those. And you don't want to do that too fast because while they're doing that process, they're also removing oxygen from the water. So you have to do it slow and then turn your skimmer on to remove the bacteria that grow, add more bacteria, let them grow, turn the skimmer back on. This is all detailed in the card, but it's a process and it takes a couple of weeks. And as the earlier question said, because you're going to be producing all these nutrients, converting these organics into nutrients, the tank may look a little worse than before it looks a little better, but you'll get there and we'll help you. Next. Hello, I have a quick question. I have a 260-gallon Red Sea tank. Great, nice. And I'm in the process of fishless cycling, and I'm on day 6. My ammonia is off the chart. My question is the ammonia chloride 1 drop per gallon or 4 drops, as it says on the bottle. Weird that it's so high. I don't want to put more in. Please help me or tell me to be patient. Just want some advice. Well, I tell everyone to be patient. Setting up the tank, getting it dialed in. Patience, number one thing you have to be. Number 2, it's 4 drops per gallon. That's why it's on the label. If it was 1 drop per gallon, we'd put 1 drop on it. And a lot of people say, excuse me, that it's off, that we're adding, it's not right. Well, it is right. And maybe, every drop's a little different. We're not asking you to squeeze the bottle super hard. A little squeeze, 1 little drop. It's 0.05 mils. You can do the math. 4 drops times 0.05 is, what is the math? 0.05 times 4. I think that's going to be 2.05 times 0.05 times 4 is 0.2. It's 50 milligrams per mil. You can do the math. Anyways, so why is it so high? Did you use live sand? Live sand is organic based. It degrades and produces more ammonia. Did you add? We find this all the time. People are hesitant to tell us, oh, yeah, I added brand X, Y, and Z before I got to you. Most brand X, Y, and Z are not nitrifying bacteria. They're heterotrophic bacteria, and that just can cause problems and things like that. So there's a variety of reasons. Plus, my ammonia is off the chart. Tells me nothing. Just like I started out, I need a value. I need a test kit name, because some test kits, their ammonia chart ends at 0.5. So if you have 2, which we're trying to get to with 4 drops per gallon, okay, it's bright green. It's off the chart, but the chart stops at 0.5 or 1. Folks, I really need numbers, okay? I can't help. It's off the chart, okay? So please, can we stop with that and give me some values? Tell me you're using a Salifert, an API, something, so that we can get a real number here. I can't help you when it's off the chart. Next question. A natural product to eliminate nuisance. Well, again, that's going to be a waste away. The equal balance kind of depends upon the nuisance, but usually it's algae or something like that, dirty tank, and the waste away is the product. It takes time, and it takes knowing that maybe you're over skimming. Don't run the skimmer 24 hours a day. Turn it off at night when corals feed. Don't get a big skimmer. If your tank's 150 gallons, why do you need a 500-gallon tank skimmer? Most likely everyone overskims, or 99% of the people. So look at what the equipment you're using and think about all that equipment is unintentionally removing bacteria from the water column, and we need those bacteria. We need them to consume the nutrients, and that's why I say turn off the skimmer. The bacteria now can reproduce instead of being removed. They're utilizing the organics, the nitrates, and the phosphates in the aquarium, and they'll outcompete the algae and the dino and the cyno when the lights come back on and things like that. So you don't have to work harder. Got to work a little smarter, and that's what we're doing here, is trying to educate you so you know how to work smarter and get your tank under control without being so frustrated. Next question. Hi. That's actually, hey, I'm on day 6 of fishless cycling using products for both nitrifying bacteria and ammonia. I just purchased an API master test kit, was using a cheaper test kit, okay? and I'm getting very high ammonia, over 8 ppm because it's not on any color chart. But my nitrate's at 2 and my nitrate's at 20 and my pH at 8. Do I do a water change or let it keep cycling? Well, you definitely let it keep cycling. That's the whole purpose of getting the tank set up and things like that. Water change, yes, definitely 33%, 40% water change would help because that high ammonia is going to translate into high nitrite. High nitrite high nitrite can stall the system. Not so much. Ammonia can too. So definitely, but you've got nitrite, so things are progressing. Definitely do not add more ammonia at this point. Get the ammonia down, below 5, more like 2, and get the nitrite down to 2. It's probably going to come up as the ammonia is being oxidized. But you're on your way. You're doing good. Just have some patience, like we told the person who wrote the question before. Next question. We've got a fishless cycling trifecta here. Hello. I'm starting my fishless cycling using Dr. Tim's bacteria and ammonia. Both my ammonia and nitrite are very high. See attached picture. I started this cycle about a week ago and wondering if this is normal or what should I do? Any help? Appreciated. Well, as I've said in the last couple of questions, we don't know what very high are. Definitely with nitrite, most kits top out at a at there's two issues. Most test kits for nitrite top out at a relatively low value for when you're cycling, and they're measuring the ion, which means that it may seem like it's super high, but you got to divide it by 4 to get what we talk about, which is the nitrogen basis. And if you're interested, we've got some past podcast on that. But basically, when I say 2 or 1 or 5, I'm talking about either ammonia, nitrite, or nitrate in the nitrogen basis. That's different than most test kits, which measure the values as the ion. What's all this mean? Well, it's basically measuring something, an analog would be measuring it in inches or measuring it in centimeters. The length is the same, it's the number that's different. Like 12 inches, that equals 25 centimeters. So if you're using centimeters and I say, keep it at 12 inches, you're going, oh, it's 25. It's way too high. No, you're measuring in a different scale. And that's with the test kits. Unfortunately, most test kits, they're designed to measure in the ion form, or they report the measurements in the ion form. And you've got to divide that nitrite by like 4.3 or something like that. It's a lot less. So don't panic. Never panic and do something really fast. You don't have to start over. The bacteria aren't dead. Just step back, do a water change. Don't disturb the gravel or anything else. And then continue on. You'll be fine. Next. I set up a really small 1.4-gallon freshwater tank 4 days ago. I added 2 capfuls of your one and only. Then I added 2 guppies a day later. I tested the water today. My readings are 0 ammonia, 5 ppm nitrite, and 40 nitrate. My question is, will it hurt anything to add more one and only bacteria? No, it will not hurt anything at all. Will it help anything at this point in the cycle? Yes, it'll, you're cycling, but if you want to go faster, it's all about a numbers game when it comes to nitrifiers. The more nitrifiers you have, the faster the tank cycles. Or should I save it and maybe add some more after the first water change? Well, there's no real, wrong answer. It's kind of up to you. 5 night, if that's the highest it gets and then it comes down, then you shouldn't have to add any more. If it's creeping up higher, I would add more one and only. I mean, 2 capfuls. I'm assuming this is a small bottle, so that's only 10 mils out of a 30 mil bottle. You got 2/3 of it left. Give it another shot. Okay. And then after the first water change, well, we recommend, if you're doing a big water change, a big cleaning, anything that can cause the system to kind of little perturbation disturbance is probably going to cause the bacteria to start oxidizing organics, which is going to produce ammonia. So you want to have nitrifiers in there. So it doesn't hurt to add some more after the first water change. All right. A non-cycling question. I accidentally bought freshwater gels for a saltwater tank. Will the freshwater gels still work in saltwater tanks? And the answer is yes. There's variability in there. None of these are pure, mixes. They're an amalgamation, a consortium. So they'll work. They won't work as fast. They won't harm anything. So you should be fine. You can use the freshwater gels in the saltwater tank. Now, getting back to nitrifiers, it's just weird, but I showed this years ago, and recent study confirmed that the freshwater nitrifying bacteria, they kind of peter out around 8 parts per thousand salt water, so not even that salty. But the saltwater bacteria, they can go down to almost zero. You can use the saltwater bacteria in fresh water, but freshwater bacteria don't do well, as well. They'll get there, but they're not going to be as fast as if you use the saltwater guys in a saltwater aquarium. So don't use the fresh water in saltwater aquariums. Back to cycling. All right, next question. Good evening. I'm on the third day of my cycling today. I have followed the instructions for using one and only bacteria to the letter. From day one, I have a reading of 3 ppm ammonia and 0 of nitrite that do not vary. I suspect that something is not right. Is this normal to find these values when 3 days have passed since I've added the bacteria? Greetings and thank you for your attention. It can be normal. It can sometimes take a little longer. Usually we start seeing something around day 2 or 3. So again, patience is super critical. Now, one thing, if whatever you do, you're adding ammonia, you're waiting, you're being patient, and every day you're getting the same value of ammonia, the same value of nitrite, I would suspect the test kits are bad. Okay, it happens, and we've had people like that. This one person they went out and 2 test kits were bad. Then they took their water to the store and it measured fine, but the test kits were saying it's terrible. So it can happen. I'm not trying to blame test kits, but the same exact value every time, that's suspect. So these values aren't terrible. Also, and I wrote a blog on this on our website, you may not see nitrite. A lot of people expect, well, I'm supposed to have high nitrite. Well, no. Things work perfectly and correctly, and this happens for most people, is you're never going to see nitrite. Why? Because we're putting the correct nitrite oxidizing bacteria into the bottle that you're buying. You're getting nitrifiers that are isolated by me that are for aquariums. And reality is you shouldn't see that much nitrite, or it should be transitory if everything's working well. So don't freak out if you don't see nitrite. And also on that, a lot of people say, well, I don't see nitrite and I don't see nitrate. When you're starting out, don't even measure nitrate. The nitrate test kits don't work well when there's low nitrate. Below 20, definitely below 10. You got to shake that sucker a lot, because the first step in doing the nitrate test is a reduction of nitrate to nitrite. Yeah. So that kit, that first chemical, is trying to reduce all the NO3 to NO2 and then measure that. And that means that if you're going to get the correct nitrate value, you have to measure nitrite at the same time. And that can be an issue when cycling. If you have high nitrite, well, chances are Well, you're going to get high. You're going to get a nitrate reading because the kit is taking the nitrate and reducing it to nitrite, and then basically you're doing a nitrite test. So you have to do a nitrite test on its own and subtract the nitrite value from the nitrate value. It gets even more confusing if you have really high nitrite for some reason, 8, 10, just sky high, and you've measured it. I'm not just saying sky high, but you've got a test kit, you know, because you've done dilutions or something, and it's really high. That is actually going to interfere with the nitrate test. So don't go crazy about nitrate testing early on your system. You just maybe get a false value that kind of freaks you out, and you don't want to do that. So just look at like the earlier question where the person, okay, my ammonia is down, my nitrite's a little bit, and my pH is dropped. Those are the three indicators. All right, because the conversion of ammonia to nitrite, nitrite to nitrate, that causes production of hydrogen ions, which causes the reduction in pH, and that's why you see that. Okay, so you can add more bacteria, you can do a water change, but if after all that it's still 3 and 0, the kits are giving you the exact same reading, I would suspect the test kits and get a friend or a store or something to check your water and go from there. Right? Next, I have a 100-gallon tank with 5 discus. Started up the cycling 4 months ago. Long story short, it doesn't seem to want to cycle. Bacterial blooms come for weeks and then go. Nitrate, nitrite, and ammonia always read 0. The fish are happy, active, and eat well, but the cloudy water is driving me crazy. So the person said it doesn't want to cycle, but there's no indication it's not cycled. The ammonia and nitrite are 0. Maybe they're thinking, well, my nitrate is 0, so it hasn't cycled, because I'm supposed to see that. But what's the key here? The cloudy water, which comes and goes. So that's a bacterial bloom. And what are the bacteria consuming? What are they using as food to bloom? They're using the nitrate. And then they use up all the nitrate, and the system clears up because the bacteria crash. So the tank is cycled. The question here is, why are you getting the cloudy water? And why is that bacteria blooming? Do you not have fine filtration? Do you just any type of mechanical filter? Is there a lot of driftwood? We have to find the fuel. There's the bacteria that are blooming. They need nitrate, they need phosphate, and they need those two and some micronutrients. So where's that coming from? What's your substrate? Could it trap there? You're feeding. What is your phosphate value? We don't know that. The phosphate could be high, but what happens? If when bacteria are blooming, just like when algae are blooming, if you can really get one value, nitrate or phosphate, to 0, they can't grow because they need the nitrate and they need phosphate. And this is good and it's bad. This is why some people have real issues trying to combat dinos, because their nitrate is 0 and their phosphate might be 0 or super low, and they're trying to grow bacteria in the water column to outcompete the dinos, but they can't because there's no nitrogen, there's no phosphorus in the system that the bacteria can use. So that's what could be happening here. Is it goes through these cycles because things, are fine, but while they're, quote, fine, the nitrate and phosphate are building up. And then they get to a certain point in the system where the bacteria go, they go, thank you very much. We got plenty of nutrients. We're going to bloom. So the bacteria bloom. So the water's cloudy. Then the bacteria consume everything. They stop growing. They die. And then everything goes back, into the substrate maybe, or trapped in the filter. I'm not sure. We don't know. And the tank clears up for a while. But all that dead bacteria is organic material for other bacteria to slowly start consuming and degrading into, you guessed it, ammonia or nitrate and phosphate. Well, it's ammonia and phosphate when the ammonia goes through the cycle and becomes nitrate. And then you've got that vicious cycle that this person is in. So find the source, clean things. That's what you really need to do. Is I would bet there's something in this tank. It's a 100-gallon tank. Is there some source that's not hiding? Do you not have a lot of water movement? A lot of times with discus, people don't put a lot of water movement in. So organics accumulate and get trapped somewhere. If you have water movement, it keeps the organics in suspension that then can be taken out to the mechanical filter. And when you clean the mechanical filter, you're removing that. So right now, I think with this tank, it's more of a maintenance issue rather than any problems. There's no chemistry problems. It's a maintenance issue that has to be, we got to always try to figure out what's the source. Let's not treat with the Band-Aid the symptom. Let's figure out the source and treat that. Okay, last question. I started a water box cube 20 and just added water, live sand, rock, and biospheres. I got the salinity correct, the temperature as well, and added the nitrifying bacteria this morning. So I run like this for 48 hours, and then I can add a pair of clowns and a couple of corals. After 48 hours, I'll add back my filter sock and carbon. So yes, after 48 hours, after adding the bacteria, you can add back your filter sock. You could have kept the carbon in from the beginning. That's not a big deal. Now, can you add a pair of clowns and a couple of corals? And the answer is should be fine for the clowns. Your water should be fine. You've added the bacteria, given them a chance to adhere, find a place to adhere and start working. But always monitor the ammonia and the nitrite to make sure that's happening. As for corals, it all depends. Generally, yes. If it's some super sensitive, hard to keep coral, maybe not all corals, just like not all fish like brand new, really fresh seawater. So you'll have to be careful there. You didn't tell us what corals, so we don't know, but chances are you should be fine. Just take it slow, monitor things, make sure your light, especially the blues, not too high so you don't start getting a lot of algae growth, and you should be fine. So that's it for this session of Dr. Tim's Aquatics podcast question and answers. We are on social media. You can email us at info@Dr. Tim's Aquatics, and we'd be glad to help out in any way we can. Thank you very much, and good fish keeping.